Brutal moment, Maid Cries holding Millionaire'S baby, you won't believe the heartbreaking reason. The opulent mansion loomed like a dark cloud over the serene neighborhood, its windows glimmering with the secrets of the privileged. Inside, the grand chandelier sparkled, but the tension was taut like a drawn bowstring. And there, in the corner, a maid clutched a baby against her chest. Tears streamed down her cheeks, each drop a testament to the chaos erupting around her. The $1 million home, once a gleaming symbol of success, now felt like a prison of despair. Anguished cries echoed, mingling with the brittle silence, growing louder until it pierced every heart in the room. Whispers of betrayal lingered in the air, thick with fear and disbelief, but what made this heartbreaking moment even more sinister? The baby in her arms wasn't just a bundle of joy, it was the child of an infamous billionaire, a man whose empire teetered on the edge of scandal. Just days before, he publicly declared his affection for his wife, but behind closed doors, shadows danced, hushed arguments dripped like poison into the cracks of their so-called paradise. The maid's sobs were not just cries of lament, they were cries of revelation, hinting at untold stories waiting to claw their way to the surface. Curiosity sharpened as guests murmured among themselves, peering through the finely embroidered curtains. Was it jealousy? Was it guilt? Or was there something darker simmering beneath the surface? Then boom! The door flung open, and in strode the billionaire, his face twisted in rage. The air thickened, each breath heavy with suspense. Everyone held their breath, waiting. What had she done? What transpired in the luxurious embrace of that mansion? As all eyes fixed on the maid, whispers began circulating about hidden truths and lost loyalties. There was something majestic yet terrifying about witnessing this unraveling. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The billionaire's eyes were like storm clouds, dark and swirling. He pointed a trembling finger at the maid, and an ominous silence engulfed the room. There was something unspoken, a weight in the air that kept everyone on edge. The maid's voice quavered as she suddenly opened up, her words barely above a whisper, "He's not who you think he is." Gasps erupted as a chill raced down spines. What did she mean? And then, just as quickly as the storm had come, her confessions were interrupted by the distant wail of sirens creeping closer. The sound sliced through the heavy air, a reminder that the world outside was closing in, and the secrets hidden within those walls could explode at any moment. The guests shifted, uneasy, eyes darting back and forth. Something unspeakable was about to be revealed. Could it be the key to the twisted fate of this family? Would the truth finally emerge, unraveling the fabric of their lives? Or would the secrets remain locked away, buried under the weight of wealth and lies? The room was electric with tension, a fragile balance that could tip at any moment. All eyes on the maid, they waited. The whispers faded, replaced by the pounding of hearts, each thud echoing the unease that filled the air. The baby squirmed, sensing the tumult, but the maid held on, cradling him as if he were her lifeline. "Not who you think he is." The maid's words haunted the space, reverberating with an urgency that demanded attention. The billionaire, fists clenched at his sides, took a bold step forward. "What are you trying to say?" His voice was low, laced with an edge that could slice through steel, driving the point home. The silence thickened, even the furniture seemed to hold its breath. Just as the maid opened her mouth to speak again, the shrill sound of sirens pierced the air, fracturing the moment. It was a call to action, a reminder that the facade of wealth wouldn't shield anyone from the truth. With every heartbeat, dread coiled tighter around the room like a creeping vine. The maid's eyes darted around, scanning faces desperate for understanding. Her breath hitched, and for a moment, sorrow etched deep lines across her features. He not his father's son. The words spilled out like a dark tide, washing over them. Gasps echoed, a cacophony of disbelief and horror. Then, as if sensing the shift, the billionaire erupted. Enough of this madness. His bellow shattered the anticipatory stillness. The chandelier trembled above them, casting a chaotic array of lights while shadows danced ominously. You will not stain my family's name with your lies. But the maid stood her ground, her eyes fierce enough to challenge his authority. You think no one knows? You think you can bury the truth behind money and power? Her voice rose, breaking as she took a step closer, the baby still firmly against her chest. He's mine. The collective gasp of the guests was a tidal wave. Every jaw dropped, every eye widened in shock, realizing the depths of deception. They were witnessing more than just a confrontation. They were on the brink of an explosive revelation. Who was the father then? Murmurs began to swirl again, rippling through the crowd like a dark current. In that moment, sirens blared outside, their blaring horns punctuating a turning point. Light from the flashing red and blue lights flickered through the windows, painting frantic shapes on the walls. The billionaire's face turned ashen, anger morphing into panic. He understood this wasn't just about him anymore. The outside world was crashing in, and the collapsing facade of safety was about to unravel. Through the haze, a confident voice spoke from the back of the crowd, cutting through the chaos. What if the truth gets out? What if it all falls apart? A chill ran through those gathered, the weight of the question sinking in. What were they willing to lose? As the sirens grew louder, drawing closer, the maid faced the billionaire one last time, her gaze unwavering. You can't run from this. It's time the world knew who you really are. The moment stretched, raw and unyielding, humming with the electricity of possibility. Before anyone could respond, the door burst open again, and a new figure stepped inside, cloaked in mystery. All eyes shifted. Who were they? What part did this newcomer play in the unfolding drama? And just like that, tension spiraled into a bewitching uncertainty. The clock was ticking, and the truth was a volcano on the verge of eruption. What this newcomer was about to reveal could change everything. The newcomer stepped inside, framed by the flickering lights and chaos of the room. A heavy silence fell, the kind that hangs thick and suffocating, whispering secrets yet to be told. This was not just another ally of the billionaire, she was a woman of command, with a fire in her eyes that could both inspire and intimidate. She was no stranger to the scandal brewing in this lavish mansion. Jessica, the billionaire breathed, his voice a mixture of disbelief and dread. The maid hesitated, the baby stirring anxiously in her arms. What are you doing here? She snapped, her voice cracking under the pressure. Jessica strode forward, confidence radiating from her every move. No one spoke, everyone was transfixed, caught in the web of escalating tensions and unspoken confessions. I'm here to put an end to this, she declared, her eyes darting from the maid to the billionaire, who now looked increasingly cornered. End to what? Snapped the millionaire. End to my family's reputation. You'll ruin us all. No, Jessica shot back, and her voice sliced through the air like glass. I'm here to expose the truth before it destroys you. You don't even realize how precarious your position is. The billionaire's mask of authority cracked, revealing vulnerability underneath. Even the guests who once looked on in disapproval now showed glimmers of sympathy for the collapsing titan. This was more than just a confrontation, it was a reckoning. The maid's grip tightened around the baby as she watched the room swirl between confusion and outrage. What do you know? She asked, her steadiness faltering, revealing a hint of fear. I know exactly who this child is, Jessica said, pointing at the baby. But more importantly, I know who he isn't. Gasps reverberated through the crowd. The weight of her words settled like a heavy fog around them, each person calculating the implications in a frenzied heartbeat. Faces paled, the earlier shock morphing into something deeper, darker. Whispers began to spiral outward from curiosity to speculation to raw panic. Enough of these games. The billionaire shouted, reclaiming a sliver of control. He advanced toward Jessica, but she stood her ground, undeterred. You can't intimidate me. Your empire can't shield you from this reckoning. Before another argument could ignite, the sirens outside reached a fever pitch, unleashing an urgency that engulfed the room. The door swung open again, and two uniformed police officers stepped through, eyes scanning the scene, sensing the heavy tension. Everyone, remain calm. One officer commanded, his voice firm. We received reports of a disturbance. Jessica turned to the officers, a tremor of dread running through her. You need to hear the truth about this child. But the words hung suspended in the air, a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Would anyone grasp it? The billionaire's panic flared. You don't want to do this, Jessica. Don't you care about what it will mean for everyone? Care? She echoed, incredulous. When have you ever cared about the truth? You will pay for hiding lies. The baby whimpered softly, the sound cutting through the rising tension, a reminder of innocence amidst chaos. All eyes fell on him, those tender cries igniting a protective impulse. As the officer approached the maid, the tension reached an explosive peak. We need to take statements from everyone present, he said, eyes narrowing at the billionaire. Especially you. The billionaire glanced around, and the weight of grudging alliances shifted in the air like a looming threat. The room held a collective breath, waiting for the next act in this raw, unfolding drama. Suddenly, Jessica grabbed the maid's arm and pulled her closer, locking eyes in a frantic exchange. We have to tell them, she hissed, urgency sparking in her features. It's the only way. A barely perceptible nod from the maid was all it took. Their decision was made. But would the truth they revealed be their downfall or their salvation? The clock was ticking again. The truth was now a blade, poised to cut. What revelations could alter the course of all? Their lives? And whose interests would ultimately triumph in the grand unraveling of secrets? The room held its breath, the air thick with anticipation as Jessica steadied her resolve. She couldn't afford to back down now. The maid's eyes bulged with a cocktail of fear and loyalty, and Jessica felt the weight of that trust pressing against her heart. We have to protect him, she murmured fervently, glancing at the baby nestled against the maid's chest, innocent yet marred by the shadow of his origins. A sharp intake of air filled the space as the billionaire seemed to gather the remnants of his shattered composure. No. You can't, he started, but the police interrupted him, moving forward with purpose. Ma'am, the officer said, nodding at the maid, is that your child? The question, simple yet profound, hung in the air like a lead weight. All eyes turned toward her. The maid hesitated, her shoulders drooping under the pressure, caught between betraying herself and protecting the tiny being who had captured all their hearts. A choked sob escaped her lips, and the baby sensed her turmoil, letting out a soft whimper. The sound rippled against the tension, piercing the facade of sophistication with raw emotion. No, she finally whispered, her voice cracking like ice breaking underfoot. He,'s not, that's not true. A murmur washed over the assembly, confusion and disbelief intertwining. The billionaire's eyes widened, disbelief transforming into outrage. How could you? This is absurd. You'll ruin everything. Ruin? Jessica interjected, her voice strong and compelling. The facade of perfection you've built comes crashing down tonight. The truth has claws, and it's hungry. The officer's brow furrowed, and he took a step back, processing the rapid-fire exchanges. Can someone please clarify what exactly is going on? I'll clarify, Jessica said, her heart pounding in her chest. That child, this baby, was born from deceit. And the time for pretending is over. He deserves to know who he really is. The billionaire exploded, his anger igniting sparks all around the room, and he shouted, "This is preposterous. You're playing a dangerous game, Jessica. You don't know what you're risking." But the maid, trembling and terrified, shook her head fiercely. No more secrets, she declared, her voice rising against the chaos surrounding them. Not for him. He's innocent in all of this. The officers glanced at one another, uncertain how to proceed. One took a few cautious steps forward, maintaining eye contact with the billionaire, who was now struggling to contain his fury. "What do you know, ma'am?" he asked the maid, voice softer now, coaxing. Tears streamed down her cheeks, reflecting the flickering lights like broken glass. "He's not yours," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper, but the collective gasp that followed was deafening. The room vibrated with shock, whispers spiraling out of control like wildfire. Jessica felt a surge of determination as the truth spilled forth, every word feeling like liberation. "It's time for the world to see you for who you truly are, billionaire," she said, her gaze fierce. "A master of manipulation hiding behind wealth and power." And as those final words resonated, the air felt electric. The baby's soft coos became a heartbeat beneath the veil of chaos. The officers positioned themselves, ready to take control, and the guests seemed to grow restless, the tension thickening with every second. "Are you ready to face the consequences?" Jessica challenged, her pulse racing as the room exploded into chaos once again. The whir of accusations and disbelief spun around her, but she stood steadfast, her heart ablaze with purpose. It was then that the flash of something cold and metallic caught her attention, a glimmer hidden beneath the billionaire's jacket. Had he been hiding more than just the truth? Uncertainty flooded her mind, and a pit formed in her stomach. And then it happened. A loud crash resounded from the back of the room, drawing every eye. A figure emerged from the chaos, face obscured, eyes glinting with malevolence. The moment was unfolding fast, and Jessica realized that the stakes had just shot up higher than she ever imagined. Was the revelation of the truth just the beginning of the end? Before she could process what was happening, the ominous figure moved in her direction, and the question loomed like a storm cloud: who would make it out alive when the truth finally got its reckoning? The figure stepped forward, shrouded in shadows, and Jessica's heart thudded wildly in her chest. With each advance, the crowd parted like the Red Sea, fear slick in the air. The officers looked confused, shifting uneasily, unsure if they should handle this new threat or maintain control over the chaos they already faced. "Who are you?" Jessica shouted, her voice steadying despite the chaos inside her. The figure didn't respond, but a chilling smile broke across the face, one that didn't belong to a stranger but a face she knew: Stacy, the billionaire's shattered former assistant. Gone was the polished professional, replaced by someone much darker and more dangerous. "Oh, Jessica, you should have stayed out of this," she said, her voice a serpentine hiss. Stacy's eyes flicked to the maid, who was still clinging tightly to the baby, and a despicable smirk played on her lips. "Don't you see? You don't have the pieces you think you do. The game isn't over, it's just begun." The word game echoed in Jessica's mind. What kind of game had they been playing? What kind of monster could put a child at the center of such betrayal? "You think you can lead everyone on this tragic charade without facing consequences?" Jessica shot back, her pulse racing as she remained resolute. She had to stand her ground. "Consequences?" Stacy laughed, sharp and merciless. "There are far worse things than consequences. You're meddling in the affairs of men who don't play nice. Lucky for you, I'm in a good mood tonight." Behind Jessica, anger ignited in the billionaire, his eyes dark and narrowed as he took a step toward Stacy, but the police officers rushed forward. "Step back!" one shouted, hands raised, ready to defuse the mounting threat. But Stacy didn't appear intimidated. She waved her hand dismissively, like she was swatting away a pesky fly. "You think you can shoot your way out of this?" she taunted the officers. "All it takes is one small prayer to bring it all crumbling down." Motioning dramatically, Stacy revealed her own weapon, an ornate dagger glistening under the dim lights. Gasps erupted around the room, panic mingling with disbelief. "Put it down!" someone yelled, the chaos erupting as guests rushed to the corners of the room, fear blanketing their features. "Not until I get what I came for." Stacy's wild eyes settled on the child. That baby right there holds the key to a fortune bigger than you can imagine, she spat, her fingers trembling with anger. And I'll make sure he's not going to be dragged down by your petty truths. Jessica felt her breath quicken, realization washing over her, a battle for more than just one life. A battle for innocence, for truth, and now for survival. Stay back. She shouted, stepping protectively in front of the maid and the baby, her tense body prepared to shield them at all costs. The weight of every life in that room pressed upon her. No one will get hurt here. Stacy's smile widened, a terrifying mix of delight and disdain. You'll see how quickly this can spiral out of control. Time's ticking, sweetheart. The unsettling silence that followed was thick, like the calm before a storm. Jessica's mind raced as she pointedly fixed her gaze on the dagger, estimating how quickly she could disarm Stacy if it came to that. And with every heartbeat, she contemplated how ready she truly was to confront this twisted game head-on. But then, in an unexpected twist, the baby let out a loud cry, piercing through the tension. Jessica's heart sank, innocence now at the center of this swirling chaos. What had she unleashed? Just then, a sudden noise from the back of the room startled everyone. The police had called for backup, sirens wailing in the night, echoing through the grand mansion. It was a sign of impending reckoning, but would it be enough to save them? The question loomed large as all eyes focused sharply on Stacy. As the tension reached a boiling point, she stepped back, caution dancing behind her eyes. Let us see how far you're willing to go, because you might not be the only one with secrets, she sneered, her disposition shifting like shadows playfully teasing the light. And with that sinister promise hanging in the air, Jessica braced herself. A new layer of darkness had surfaced, and the stakes had just risen higher than she ever anticipated. What secrets remained to be unearthed, and how far would they stretch? Jessica's instincts kicked in, the razor edge of fear sharpening her focus. Every pair of eyes in the room latched onto Stacy, the tension crackling like a live wire. The baby's cries pierced the uncomfortable silence, and Jessica felt a surge of urgency. She had to protect them, not just the innocent life in front of her but the truth buried beneath all this chaos. Get away from her! Jessica yelled, stepping closer to the maid and the child. The audience around them, now frozen in a grotesque tableau of dread, seemed almost to hold their breath. Isn't it adorable? Stacy mocked, her voice dripping with malice. You think you can save them? You don't even know what's really at stake. Jessica didn't need to understand everything, she just needed to act. She glanced around, assessing her limited options. The police officers were still trying to maintain order, voices barking orders, but fear held them back, tethered by the uncertainty of the situation. Stacy, put down the knife. An officer called, taking a step closer. His hands were steady but unyielding, and one false move could send the entire room spiraling into madness. The sirens outside grew louder, echoing through the walls like a warning of what was to come. Jessica's heart raced faster, matching the frantic rhythm of the baby's cries. Time was slipping through her fingers like sand, she couldn't wait for help. What do you want? Jessica demanded, desperately trying to maintain a grip on her resolve. Is this really about money? Is that all you care about? A flash of disbelief crossed Stacy's face, twisting into something sinister. Oh, sweet Jessica. You really don't get it, do you? It's not just about money. It's about power. With that, Stacy lunged, the dagger gleaming in her hand, cutting the distance like a lightning bolt. Jessica recoiled instinctively, fear electrifying every nerve in her body. The room erupted into shouts of panic. Stay back. Move. But it was too late. The fear erupted into chaos, bodies colliding as people scrambled for the door. Jessica stood firm, a wall against the rising tide. No. She shouted, her voice breaking through the frenzy. Someone still has to protect them. In an instant, the maid was on the ground, clutching the baby tightly as if her life depended on it. A wall of people surged around them, blocking any sight of Stacy, who was now a ghost in the swirl of terrified faces. Jessica's heart pounded as she strained to see through the chaos, searching for any sign of Stacy. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of movement. Stacy was trying to maneuver through the crowd, weapon drawn, eyes wide with a wild determination. "Jessica!" A familiar voice shouted, and she turned to see the billionaire pushing through the throng, his face a mask of rage and fear. "Get the child to safety. I can't leave you." Jessica shouted, but her eyes seen the desperation in his. The air crackled as they locked eyes, momentarily connecting amid the swirling madness. "Trust me. I'll handle this," he urged, his voice steady, despite the chaos outside. Just then, with one final cry, the baby fell silent. All attention shifted, both from the guests and from Stacy, who seemed agitated, sensing her time was running out. In that frozen moment, the atmosphere thickened. Something shifted within Jessica. The stakes weren't just about saving lives anymore, they were about uncovering the truth and facing the monsters lurking in the shadows. "Where are the secrets, Stacy?" Jessica called out into the void, fully aware that the answer might save them or doom them all. Stacy paused, a twitch of uncertain surprise betraying her confidence. "You have no idea what you're unlocking." Before she could finish, the sound of sirens blasted through the night, signaling rapid approach. The question now wasn't if the police would arrive, but what would happen to them once they did. Jessica took a breath, her skin prickling with dread and determination. This wasn't just about one battle. It was a war against twisted ambitions and buried truths, what lay hidden beneath the surface. And could anyone survive the revelation? The tension hung heavy as the sirens wailed louder, slicing through the chaos like a razor. The room's atmosphere crackled with terror, and Jessica fought the urge to abandon her post and flee. But she couldn't. The weight of the baby's life felt heavier than everything else. She gritted her teeth, her resolve hardening. "Tell me, Stacy," she shouted, the sound of her own voice surprising her amidst the uproar. "What secrets? What have you done?" Stacy's eyes went wide, flickering between anger and amusement. "You really want to know? You think you have what it takes to pry the truth from me?" The crowd surged again, everyone desperate to escape, to avoid the impending storm. But Jessica stood firm. "I'm not going anywhere until I know what's going on." In that instant, Stacy's demeanor shifted. There was something primal in her gaze, a hint of vulnerability beneath the madness. "You're too late, Jessica. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a game, and the stakes are higher than you can imagine." The maid on the ground tightened her grip around the baby. Jessica's heart raced. She could sense the fear in the child, could almost taste it in the air. "We can't let her hurt them," she whispered to the maid, her voice low and urgent. "Back away, Stacy." A police officer shouted again, inching forward, gun drawn. The crowd faltered at his command, but Stacy merely laughed, a sound that sliced through the tension like a knife that glinted dangerously in her hand. The billionaire waded through the fear-laden crowd. "Let her go," he commanded, his voice booming over the panic, eyes blazing with authority. "Stacy, you don't want this. You're better than this madness." Something in Stacy trembled at his words, but her grip tightened on the knife. "Better?" she hissed, spitting the word. "You don't know me." But Jessica could see a crack beginning to form in her facade. "This isn't who you are," she pleaded. "You can stop this. Just put down the knife." Outside, the sound of boots pounding the pavement grew closer, and the urgency of the moment escalated. The mention of secrets echoed in Jessica's mind. There was more at play here than a simple hostage situation. She could feel it in her bones. Suddenly, Stacy stepped back, eyes darting as if weighing her options, the madness swirling in her mind like a storm. "You're all so naive. You think this is just about the money? You have to understand." Her voice trembled, cracking under the pressure. The maid gave a weak plea. Stacy, please. For them. Just let the baby go. As if provoked by the pure agony in the maid's voice, Stacy halted, and her face twisted. Jessica seized the moment. What if we leave? What if you let the baby go, and we have a chance to talk? Time froze as the sound of emergency vehicles flooded the night. Jessica could feel the world teetering on the edge, caught in a web of secrets and desperation. Stacy, you're losing yourself. Don't let it end like this. But Stacy was already shaking her head. You think the truth will set you free? To know the truth is to drown in it, and with that proclamation, Stacy lunged. Jessica's heart dropped as the crowd recoiled. She could hardly breathe. Was this the moment it all shattered? In the distance, the sirens wailed closer still, echoing like a mournful reminder of impending doom. The air was thick with anticipation, a harbinger of the chaos that was threatening to erupt. What would happen next? Would the truth come crashing down like a wave? Would it pull them all under, or would they rise to the surface together? It was then that the unmistakable sound of the front doors bursting open echoed through the venue. The moment had arrived. And the real battle was about to begin. Jessica's heart raced as Stacy lunged, the knife slicing the air dangerously close to the baby. In that split second, every decision flashed through her mind. Save the child or confront the storm brewing in the woman's eyes? Stop! Jessica screamed, the urgency in her voice pulling Stacy back for a brief moment. The crowd gasped collectively, a wave of fear sweeping through the room. But Jessica's eyes locked onto Stacy's. The hesitation gave her a glimmer of hope. Why are you doing this? Jessica implored, inching forward slowly, her hands open and visible. You don't have to be alone in this. We can help you. Stacy's eyes flickered with hesitation, doubt creeping in. Help? She sneered, as if the very word were a poison. You think I need your help? You have no idea what I've done. No idea how deep this goes. The tension felt like a live wire, ready to spark. Jessica looked at the maid, fear etched across her face, clutching the baby closer. You don't have to do this, Stacy, she said softly. Let the child go. It doesn't matter what you've done, it's not too late. Just then, a police officer shouted from the entrance, clearly wanting to subdue the chaos but uncertain of how to approach without escalating the situation. Stacy. You can still make this right. Just put down the knife. Stacy's laughter grated. Make it right? She spat. You think you know righteousness? You don't know the darkness coiling inside me. You have no idea what it's like to be cut away from everything you thought you knew. Thunder rumbled outside as rain began to patter against the windows, the weather mirroring the turmoil inside. Jessica's chest tightened. What truth could possibly lie beneath the surface of this unraveling woman? What is it? What are you hiding? She pressed, sensing the moment could slip away if she didn't act fast. Secrets, they will destroy you, Stacy hissed, stepping back as her grip faltered, the knife swaying slightly in her shaking hand. You think I'm the villain? I'm just the pawn. The truth is much darker. Then tell me. Jessica urged, fighting to keep the panic out of her voice. Let us in. Let us know so we can help you. For a flicker of a moment, Stacy seemed to ponder. But then her face twisted again, anger igniting the madness shielded behind her fear. You think I want to share my pain? You think I'll let you in? You're all. Just before she could finish, the door burst open fully, a flood of uniforms and a tactical crew storming in, their voices shouting commands that only added to the chaos. Jessica barely registered their entrance, her focus solely on Stacy. Stay back. Stacy screamed, lifting the knife again. The tension in the room reached a breaking point, the energy swirling threateningly around them like an incoming tide. Jessica felt a lump forming in her throat. She glanced toward the baby, who was now quiet, sensing the intensity of the moment. Stacy, please. If you can hear me, just stop. It's not just you in this fight anymore. We're all in this together. But it was too late. The chaos erupted. The officer moved forward, bullets of fear stabbing through the air. Stacy's eyes filled with desperation. You don't understand. You won. Tino. In the split second that followed, the crowd held its breath as the scenario spiraled, the moment crashing like thunder. Then there was another flash, a shot fired. Jessica's heart stammered. What had happened? Was this the end or the start of something much worse? Everything hung in the balance, the truth swirling just out of grasp. But as time froze in that pivotal moment, the question lingered in the charged air: who would hold the knife next? The shot echoed through the room like a death knell, ringing in Jessica's ears. She felt like the world around her slowed, her mind racing in an attempt to make sense of what had just happened. Stacy froze, her body stiffening as if turned to stone. The knife slipped from her fingers, clattering to the floor with a sound that seemed to amplify the gasps and cries of the onlookers. The room was a mosaic of fear, faces pale, eyes wide, mouths gaping in shock. Jessica took a step forward, heart pounding, desperate to see the aftermath. The police officer who had rushed in now stood between Stacy and them, gun still raised but wavering, confusion etched on his face. Stacy! Jessica called, just above a whisper. But Stacy didn't respond. Her gaze was fixed on the floor, green eyes staring blankly ahead. Jessica's heart twisted. What had Stacy just lost? Then, the realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Ma'am, step away from her. The officer's command was firm, but Jessica felt paralysis in her muscles. How could he demand that when the woman before her looked as broken as a shattered doll? Something sharp sliced through the air. A splatter of deep crimson arced across the floor as Stacy's knees buckled beneath her. No, no. Jessica's breath caught. This wasn't just a confrontation, this was tragedy unfolding. The maid who had cradled the baby suddenly rushed forward, but the officer quickly blocked her path. Get back! He shouted, panic filling his voice. The room shifted, the crowd swarming with frightened murmurs, like a wave about to crash. At that moment, Stacy spoke, her voice barely above a murmur. You still don't understand. The truth, it's not just about me. Her words twisted in the air, laden with something Jessica couldn't quite grasp. Stacy, please. You need to talk. Jessica pressed, inching around the officer. A frayed bond of connection lingered between them, a mutual suffering only they could grasp. I can't. Stacy gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks now, mixing with the darkness pooling beneath her. It's too late for me, but the child, you have to protect them. Protect the baby. Jessica's pulse quickened, her mind racing. There was more at stake than she realized. As the chaos continued, the officer barking orders, the crowd murmuring questions, Jessica's eyes flitted from Stacy to the infant, still cradled by the maid. What secrets were buried beneath the explosive surface of this tragedy? What truth was too dark to bear? Jessica took a deep breath, a fire igniting inside her. Stacy, I promise I'll protect the baby. But I need you to trust me. Share your truth. Your pain can't stay locked up, it's threatening everyone here. Stacy's eyes flared, flicking over to the maid cradling the baby. For a moment, something changed in her gaze. The hungry despair was replaced by a flicker of hope. Just then, the officer turned sharply, face taut with urgency. She needs medical attention. Now. Jessica felt the tension crackle around her. A chasm had opened, drawing her in with an undeniable pull. What lay beneath the surface was nothing less than an abyss, threatening to swallow everyone in its wake. Stacy, don't shut down. Please. Jessica reached for her, willing the woman to see the swirling chaos around them wasn't the end, it could be a new beginning. As paramedics rushed in, there was a shimmer of understanding in Stacy's eyes. The baby, it's not just a baby. He's the reason I did all of this. You have to listen. But before she could continue, the lights flickered, something in the atmosphere shifting. Jessica's heart sank. What more lay hidden beneath the surface? Could it be that the answer to this nightmare was even darker than imagined? The room crackled with uncertainty, the flickering lights revealing glimpses of desperation. What lay on the other side of truth? What if the darkness Stacy spoke of was just beginning to seep into everyone's lives? The atmosphere was thick with tension. Jessica stood in the fading light as paramedics rushed to Stacy's side. The guests whispered among themselves, eyes darting from Stacy to the maid, and finally landing on the baby, still cradled in the maid's arms, a symbol of innocence amid chaos. "Listen closely," Stacy gasped, trying to pull strength from the well of despair. "He's not just the child of a billionaire. He is the key to everything, the reason we all are here, in this nightmare." Jessica felt her heart race. What did she mean? "Stacy, please," Jessica urged, stepping closer, her voice a lifeline thrown into frigid waters. "We need the truth now. For the baby." Stacy's breath hitched, tears streaming down her face. "He is not safe. They'll come for him if they find out." Then, with a sudden flash of pain, Stacy clutched her stomach, grimacing. "He is the rightful heir, and they'll kill anyone who stands in the way." Every heartbeat felt like an eternity as her words carved a stark reality. The whispers of the guest crowd intensified. Faces twisted in disbelief and horror, turning toward the maid still cradling the baby as if he held the weight of the world. "Is that true?" Someone finally shouted, breaking through the mounting tension. "Is that child really an heir?" The room erupted into fragmented shouts, speculations and accusations swirling like angry bees. Jessica, keeping her gaze locked with Stacy's, needed answers. "Who are they?" she pressed. "What are you hiding?" Stacy's eyes glimmered with desperation, pain coursing through her bleeding body. "The family, the deeper ties, they'll stop at nothing to bury this secret. I thought I could protect him, but it's all unraveling." "Protect him? Stop!" The police officer barked, trying to regain control over the disarray. But voices rose higher, drawn to the horrifying implications of Stacy's revelation. Before Jessica could respond, the billionaire surged forward, his face a mixture of rage and fear. "You're lying. None of this is real." "Is it?" Jessica countered, incredulity in her voice as she pointed at the maid. "That child is wrapped in a legacy of deceit. Control this." The officer shouted, pushing between them, desperately trying to siphon order from chaos before it consumed them all. The maid, trembling and fraught with anguish, stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "This baby is innocent, don't let greed take him." Tears flowed unchecked down her cheeks as she nestled the child closer, reassuringly. The baby's little hand grasped her finger, grounding her amid the storm. A silence fell upon the room, heavy and suffocating. Then Stacy gasped, her expression sharp, eyes darting toward the entrance where the paramedics had burst in. "Time is running out. They can't establish his lineage." "If they do," another officer interrupted, now standing next to Stacy. "We need to take you to the hospital. Now." "No!" Stacy cried, shaking her head fiercely. "You need to listen." But the paramedics began to lift her, voices rising again in fervor, battling anxiety against their urgency as Stacy reluctantly yielded to the assistance. The billionaire, white-knuckled and furious, turned back to the crowd. "Stacy is a delusional fool." But the murmurs amongst the guests turned into a chorus, every eye on the child, everyone weighing what this revelation meant for all their lives. "Then what does it mean for you?" Jessica shot back, stepping defiantly in front of the billionaire. "You bury secrets, play games, and now your empire stands on the brink." Just then, the broken facade seemed to shatter. Jessica turned her back toward the tumult, focusing on the maid and the baby. "We have to get you both somewhere safe," she whispered, reassuring. "I'll protect him." The maid promised, trembling yet fierce. "Not anymore, not after this." The crowd began to shift, and amid the turmoil, Jessica glimpsed the police officers forming a protective perimeter designated to calm the growing dread. "Take them," the officer commanded, gesturing pointedly toward the maid and baby. As they ushered them toward an exit, Jessica held her breath. Would this be the escape they needed? Or would the shadows still follow them into the light? With Stacy being carted away, more sirens blared outside. Jessica turned to face the billionaire, determination now set in her heart. End the lies. Destroy what has been hidden. Show the world who you really are. In that single moment, the billionaire's mask slipped, revealing fear and grit all in one. "No one knows the depths of this," he breathed. "Then let us change that." Jessica felt the conviction surge through her, a promise of protection for the baby and a future without buried secrets. As they reached the door, the sirens crescendoed, the night air pulsing with urgency. In that breath of time, the chance for change lingered, a tipping point to forever alter the lives within the mansion's walls. Jessica cast one last glance back, heart racing, ready to step into the unknown where truth would reign, a dawning certainty driving her. They would not rest until they removed every shadow that threatened the innocent. As the door swung open, the night air filled her lungs, a wild sense of possibility mingling with resolve. They would forge ahead, refusing to let darkness extinguish their light. Now was the time to act, to stand for what they believed in, a new beginning wrapped in the fragile arms of hope. Before you rush to the comments, hear me. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about the ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your voice matters. It shapes this community. Let's rally together for the truth.